Right, as you can see, the t-shirt says it all. RX10 Life. So, the RX10, it's been around since forever, it seems. The RX10 Mark IV, for example, which is obviously the fourth variation of, was a massive jump forward in tech. So, from the previous versions, it suddenly became much faster. It could do things a lot quicker, had a bigger buffer, you know, and it just worked so much better, and suddenly became a really usable tool, especially for wildlife photographers and, you know, air shows and things like that. So it was a fantastic bit of kit, still is today, and I use it regularly, as do a lot of other photographers out there, you know, and it's fantastic for amateurs, enthusiasts, even pros. You know, obviously I shoot professionally, and I have this as a day out camera. You know, I don't necessarily want to take everything with me, you know, big lens with me, and, you know, wide angle lens and a couple of bodies and this sort of stuff, you know, unless you're really going to work. So this is just an epic tool. Sadly, going by the rumours, and there are a couple of reports online this week, the last couple of days, it's ceasing production, with no obvious replacement. I mean, that could be untrue, but the fact is, this is 7 years old now, and, you know, it's been fantastic. But it's done a very, very good job, and still does. And, you know, you go out with it, and when you've been using all the, like the A1 and the A6700 and stuff like that, and it kind of reminds you, it is a little bit slower, it is a little bit more clunky than the newer stuff, but when you use it, it makes sense. The fact that you haven't got to change lenses, you know, you've got 24 to 600, you know, the fact you can be walking around taking pictures of, you know, buildings or what, you know, landscapes and stuff like that, and suddenly a bird of prey comes into shot, and you're like, oh, 600mm, boom, got it. Or a plane, or cool plane or something. And, you know, it makes a huge difference as a photographer to be able to do things quickly and efficiently without having to change lenses. And many times, in fact, this camera has got me more keepers, a shot in photos, and more unique shots that I would have missed 100% if I was using a different camera. Mainly because I haven't got to change lenses, and obviously the decent autofocus, decent quality, you know, it's a fast lens as well, so f4 at 600, and, you know, some of the shots I've got from it, which I'll try and put a few in, that ones I'm proud of as a photographer. And it makes a huge difference when you can actually carry a 1 kilo camera around with you all day and not really realise it's there, you know, with you. And, you know, when you've got to take a 200 or 600 with you or whatever, and you start lugging it around, you actually kind of regret it. But if you're going to go on holiday, a little bit of travelling, going to London for the day or a city or something, you've got a camera that doesn't take up a lot of room. Just go for a walk with the dog, down to the beach, sunsets or whatever. You've just got a camera that works really nicely. It's got basically pro level specs on it. You know, you've got 1/32,000th of a second shutter speeds if you need it, f2.4 to f4. You know, it's fantastic. The HFR in there, the up to 1,000 frames per second, isn't brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant, but it's not, the quality is not quite there, because it's all upscaled because of the tech that is in here at the time was pushing it to the best they could do at the time. You know, but I still use it, and 500 frames per second is quite nice to utilise sometimes. Obviously 24 frames per second, and if you've got one of these cameras, you know the deal. It's just lovely to use, you know, and the fact you can go at 600mm, you can go down to 72 centimetres at 600, and it means you can photograph butterflies and bugs and things quite nicely as well. Where something like the Sigma 150 to 600 or the 200 to 600 Sony is about 2.4 to 2.8 meters, depending on which lens you're using. Minimum focus at 600, so I can get a lot closer with this, and you can get shots that other people can't. So, and also the other thing as well, if I hold that up, is at 24mm wide angle, you can pretty much focus to the actual end of this sunshade, the lens hood. So literally within a couple of millimeters of that. So when you're doing close-ups and wide angle close-ups of flowers or something, you can get really close to stuff and it's really usable. The only downside is midway, somewhere like say 150 to about 400, 500, you can't focus very closely at all, so it's more designed for distance. But you've got to have some kind of drawbacks with the benefits, haven't you? So it's just been such a good camera to use, and yeah, it does feel a little bit outdated now because all the other stuff's more intelligent with all the so-called AI chips in there, and but depending on what you're doing and what you've learnt from using this camera and other cameras, you change your technique slightly. You know, you set up your buttons a bit better. You know, this one here, I've set the side button here that used to be a focus hold. I've actually got that as focusing registration. So basically, you just push it and it goes to a small spot, and then you push it again and it goes back to wide. So I generally use that all the time. So I'll have it in wide AF, and I'll just push that. If I want to focus on a little bug or something dead in the middle that's a lot smaller, I can very quickly with just one push of a button. So that's really really useful and really good, which I haven't actually ever bothered putting it on any of the other cameras I got, but you know, it works really nicely. Battery life is pretty good. Some people moan about it, but the batteries are quite small. The for example, the Sony, I was going to get that, the Sony was it the NP-FW50 is fine. It's a tiny little battery. You can take a couple or even 3 of them in your pocket, no drama. It's not really a problem. You know, what else can I say about it? The only downsides really are you can't zoom in and out whilst you've got your finger on the autofocus button, basically. So if you're doing stills, you can't zoom in and out, but luckily it's quick enough that you can just back out quickly and then refocus most of the time. Buffer fills up a bit quick and takes quite a long time to offload it compared to the modern stuff. So you can't start doing video or anything like that. So I had to change my plane of thought. And if I thought, so like let's say from a racetrack at Brands Hatch or something, I would film a vehicle coming down the track and then swap to photos, because I've got my bit of film, because obviously a lot of times for YouTube. I'd film a little bit and then go to photos, but before I would do photos and then go, damn it, I can't film because it's still offloading the buffer. So yeah, you have to think about things. The pop-up flash is amazingly, considering it's so small, a really usable bit of technology. And the little pop-up flash I use quite a bit for lighting flowers and bugs and stuff like that at 600. So you can actually just put a little bit of flash on there and it works really nicely and just gives you a little bit extra punch and freezes your subject, especially if they're just taking off or whatever. It works really nicely. The fact this camera's still got a screw-in, I don't know if you can see that, a screw-in shutter release, so you could actually put a cable shutter release on there, which is quite funny. But it's there if you want it. Obviously, and a few people, new viewers, have asked me where did I get the eyepiece from. It's just a universal rubber eyepiece that I bought on Amazon or eBay, well I can't remember now, for about £5, and basically took off the actual clip which would have gone on to another camera and then warmed it up and stretched it over the thing, so it's easily done. It's just nice to be able to cut the light out, so like that you've got the sunlight on the side of your face, you get a bit of light leakage, so having that there just allows you to see the EVF. The EVF is too small really for this camera, but it works, but it could be a bigger one. Would be nice if it was a bit bigger. But we can't have everything. You know, they obviously built this to a certain level. They built it to do a fantastic job optically and with the speed, and it still does do really, really good photos. Like I've said before, you know, it's got me more shots than any other camera that I use today, and you know, it's only really now the A1 of, you know, the update and everything, that's actually got me some shots that I've never been able to get before, like the swallows. You know, it's difficult enough trying to stay with them, but you know, this thing will do it, but you've got to be a bit more patient, and you've got to spend a bit more time. And the A1 the other day, which I'll put a plonker picture and a couple of pictures in, the A1 I was out here for, well, actually was down the road in a field, wheat field, and I basically got a couple of really sharp shots, wide open at f1.8 on the 135, and mega sharp shots with the A1, so that was fantastic. But this will do it. You've just got to spend a bit more time where it's not quite as intelligent. So, you know, it's a shame really that they're going to stop production. Apparently, you know, if that rumour's wrong and they do release something a bit special, they could, but I think they're worried it might harm the sales of the interchangeable cameras, which to be honest, I don't think it would. I don't know, it's bizarre. Panasonic have just revamped their two of their bridge cameras, but they're only like 450 quid mark, so they're not, I mean, they're still okay, they still work very well, but they've basically updated the ports and stuff like that on it, and possibly just autofocus and a few other bits and pieces to re-release a bridge camera. And I don't know if Sony would do it, you know, have they put internals, because they would have made one of these, they would have either retrofitted one with a new sensor and, you know, that they've got, and new computers and everything like that, and actually tested it out, I'm sure. But has it come out the other end when they've costed everything too expensive? You know, is it coming out at $2.5 grand, $3 grand? For me, I think it'd be worthwhile, and I would probably buy one, but a lot of people out there wouldn't either necessarily be able to afford it, and wouldn't get the most out of that sort of camera with that sort of thing, you know, because they could take all of the A1 or A9 III stuff and plonk it in, and you know, with this lens still, maybe update the motors or whatever so it's a bit quicker, and give you a much faster bit of kit. You know, CF Express A card in there or something as well, different screen. And there's loads of stuff you could do to make this, you know, the best camera in the world, basically. You know, this isn't far off being still one of the best cameras on the market today, and it's 7 years old. It just shows you how good it is, and the photos I've captured with it, I'd say, blow my mind sometimes. But yeah, sadly it's coming to an end apparently, so I don't think we're ever going to see a RX10 Mark V, but who knows, we may be wrong. Let me know down below, and I think personally everybody should write to Sony camera department and put a complaint in and say, look, there's thousands of us who own these things, and we want an update. We want an updated version of it, and you know, they think it should be done. You know, a lot of photographers who own this also own interchangeable cameras. They don't just own the RX10. There's a lot of obviously amateurs and enthusiasts who just own this. My dad, for one's got one, just one, and that's what he uses. Plus a few other photographers I know just have this. And I'm sure there's plenty of people watching just have this, which is absolutely fine. It's a fantastic bit of kit, and it does the job extremely well. Obviously, other people, a bit like myself, have all the interchangeable stuff for work, and then you have this thing for taking shots. But this is the real reason why this thing is so good. The fact you can just turn it on, zoom in on a plane, and go back wide angle again, and then come back to photographing the Pocket 3 like that. We should just wreck the exposure. There we go. Just like that. So yeah, who knows? But I think we should all write a letter or an email. So a letter, that's a bit old-fashioned. Well, saying that, it might make Sony look if we sent a few thousand letters to Sony's head office. They suddenly get a massive pile of them and going, what the hell's this about? We just put in there saying, we want RX10 Mark V. We want RX10 Mark V. Or do we do the modern thing, like stop oil and all that sort of, all those muppets? Maybe go and do a protest. Who knows? Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Please like and subscribe and all that. Yeah, and I'll plonk a couple of my favourite shots that I've taken with the RX10, and I'll be out with it tomorrow. I've got a kind of, hopefully the weather stays like this, which is supposed to. I've got some fun stuff to do tomorrow, so yeah, hopefully I can capture some cool bits and pieces. So anyway, take care, and like I say, let me know what you think about this sad moment in time, really. You know, but hopefully the guys are wrong who've put the rumours out there, and they do release something. There might be a new version, they've thought outside the box, and it might bring something. Either that, Sony. The other option is to make a lens that fits on the A6700, you know, the crop sensor, that isn't necessarily 24 to 600, but maybe 24 to 500 or something like that, if they could do it. Is there a lens that they could bring out that isn't too big, that still makes it a really usable piece of equipment, as an all-in-one as such, even though it's interchangeable? Who knows? Catch you later, guys.